Welcome back. If it is joining us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our major stories tonight. 7 lives claimed in Abuja when a tanker catches fire in the FCT, laden with diesel. It was said to have experienced a brake failure, ramming into another vehicle. Police intelligence response team strikes a telling blow on kidnappers. Arrests Nigeria's most notorious kidnap kingpin in Lagos. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo meets African and Nordic ambassadors, seeks greater global cooperation against terrorism. And Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, son of late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, released from prison after being granted amnesty. For more on our top stories and others, please visit our websites channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb. Log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 apps give you access to news and updates. You'll also have access to the Eyewitness feature with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. Well, some of you have already sent in pictures to take a look at some of them, shall we? First is this one from the Anthony bus stop in Lagos State, which shows a flooded walkway connecting a pedestrian bridge. Our eyewitness reporter says that this has been like this for years now and wants authorities to fix it. Next is this picture of an overloaded vehicle on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Eyewitness reporter says this trend has been allowed to go on for too long by the authorities. Finally is this picture of a flooded street in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. We see the plight of residents during the rainy season. Eyewitness reporter wants the state government to expand the drainage system. Thanks for sending those pictures and please keep them coming. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, is suing the federal government over prepaid meters. The group named the Minister of Power, Babatunde Fashola, and the federal government in a lawsuit over alleged failure to enforce distribution of free prepaid meters to the public by the electricity distribution companies, the DISCOs. In the lawsuit filed at the Federal High Court, Ikoyi, Lagos, SERAP is accusing Mr. Babatunde Fashola of promoting the practice of estimated billing by the DISCOs, which increases consumer costs. You'll recall the Ministry of Power had issued directives through the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission to electricity distribution companies to provide free prepaid meters to customers. SERAP is seeking an order of the court that will compel the government to enforce this directive. No date has been fixed for hearing of the lawsuit. The United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund has offered assurances that it will continue to support social intervention programs targeted at improving the lives of the Nigerian child and woman. The Chief Field Officer and Coordination of the UNICEF, Dr. Anfrida Kisesa, said this when she led participants from 16 other states on a tour to assess the social protection programs, particularly the school feeding program in Osun State.
These participants, drawn from 16 states across the country, including Abuja, Bayelsa, Bauchi, Sokoto, Akwa Ibom, and Benue, are here with UNICEF staff to understudy the social protection programs of the focal state, with a view to exchanging ideas on how to improve them.
UNICEF has been working with the government of Nigeria for many years, and we've been looking at several social protection initiatives, and in our discussions we found that there are some states which have been well ahead of others, and Osun was one of them. And particularly we were informed that Osun is for homegrown school feeding program. Osun was the first state to initiate. That's why we're here.
The delegation was quick to observe the positive impact the school feeding program has on students' enrollment and academic performance.
Not that it's impossible, but it's very difficult. Because in the part of the country I came from, feeding is being contracted out. But here what I learned that feeding is being done by the parents of the people that live within the school, within the school environment, within the vicinity of the school. So we have to have a kind of paradigm shift, because all along since in the 60s, feeding program is only contracted in most states in the north. This is the first time I'm seeing it that it's been done by the local people, in fact the parents of the kids.
For the UNICEF officials, the success of the social protection program, which includes employment generation, child health and economic buoyancy, is the mandate of UNICEF.
Osun State was one of the states that UNICEF supported all other stakeholders across the country to visit when we were developing the national social protection policy. So it's one of those programs that is highlighted there that has the potentials of improving both school outcomes, enrollment, completion and transition, as well as improving the nutritional status of children. So for us, we feel accomplished because children are benefiting, and when children benefit, UNICEF all over the world, we're happy because that's our mandate that is being fulfilled.
UNICEF hopes this will help to go a long way to formulate policy on social intervention that can make life better for the Nigerian child.
Meanwhile, plans are underway by the Cross River State government to establish a first-of-its-kind incubation center for youths with interest in agriculture in the state. Technical support for the project is expected to be provided by the National Cereal Research Institute. 500 hectares of land have already been purchased and is gradually being developed for agricultural activities such as rice production.
The team from the National Cereal Research Institute make their way to the site of their latest project located in Uban community, already famed for its agricultural prowess. This plot of land, said to be around 500 hectares, is set to become a rice farm, which is a testimony of the federal government's plan to make the country food sufficient. The farmers here are products of the Anchor Borrowers program of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and to them, this addition is in their best interest.
This is going to serve as incubation center for young ones who are doing agric in secondary school and in agric schools. Come here and learn the practical side. And we intend to affiliate with some agencies to train people here, just as you have some guy.
There is need for everyone to put their hands on deck and farm. I think if we do that, we'll be better off than all this dependence on one source of economy, and that is the oil, which is fast depleting.
For the team from the Institute, technical support is what the farmers need, and that is what their office is here to provide.
We are going to support in giving all the technical backstoppings to make sure it succeeds. So far, we've seen a good land preparation, and we are here today to also give in the techniques on how well is rice field will be well established by demonstrating on how to give a good planting population to give a maximum yield of the variety that he was given to.
As it stands, the plan to ensure Cross River State meets its target of becoming a top producer of rice is on its way to being achieved.
In nearby Rivers State, Governor Wike is describing as untrue recent media reports that Rivers State was the highest beneficiary of the Paris Club refund from the federal government. Speaking at the Synod Thanksgiving service of the Church of Nigeria, the Anglican Communion in Port Harcourt, the state capital, the governor explained that Rivers and some states in the south were shortchanged. He asked the federal government to set the record straight by making public the accounts into which the 34 billion naira was paid into. Governor Wike also gave assurances that all funds from the Paris Club refund will be used for development projects.
I read on the pages of newspaper that Rivers State received the highest amount of the refund of the Paris Club to the tune of 34 billion. I want to say categorically that is not correct. And it's good for you to know the federal government, the president approved to pay every state and local government the refund of the Paris Club, that they should pay 50%. Then they came back to say that they cannot pay the 50%, they will pay 25% of the 50%. Now, the 25% of the 50%, they paid River States and local governments 14 billion naira. They should pay us, should pay Akwa Ibom, should pay Delta, which are PDP states.
River State Governor Nyesom Wike. Nigeria's total debt stood at 12.1 trillion naira at the end of the second quarter of 2015. The national debt is now 19.1 trillion naira. The country's debt has increased by 7 trillion naira in 2 years. Is the rising debt aligned with the plans to get out of recession, especially the vision of long-term growth? Well, joining me to review the recent debt report by the Debt Management Office is Babajide Ogusowo, Channel Television's in-house data and information analyst. It's been a while we had you on the news at 10. Welcome again. So, is there a sustainable debt issuance and management plan for Nigeria?
It all depends on how you want to look at it. If we want to look at the sustainability of the debt, yes, our debt is sustainable, especially if you look at global indicators such as our debt to GDP. So yes, it is sustainable. But the second question is it suitable? And one way to look at if it's suitable is to look at our debt and revenue. Does it match? So if you look at the suitability question, no, it isn't as suitable as it should be. But even before sustainability or suitability, there's a question that we need to ask, and that is, what is the vision of debt and what does it state in the Constitution? And let me clearly share something with you that you'll find interesting. A flying hawk from miles away can see a mouse on the ground. From miles away. Whales can speak to each other from kilometers apart. They communicate very easily. Dogs can sort over a dozen different smells at the same time. Pretty amazing stuff. You and I can't do any of that. But here's what you and I can do. We have vision. They don't have any of those things. What is vision? Vision is the ability to create our future. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the vision of debt and what does the Constitution state about what the government should focus on? And quickly, it is found in section 14, subsection 2b of the Constitution. You will also find it even in section 16, subsection 1b and 1d of the Constitution. And it is also in section 17, subsection 3a and 3c of the Constitution. It clearly states that if the government is to increase debt, it lets us see what we should focus on. And we should focus on the economic welfare and prosperity for all Nigerians. That is what the mandate should be. So even if our debt increases and we choose to grow by rising debt, the focus should be on ensuring that we create prosperity and welfare for all Nigerians.
Are we doing that?
It depends on how we want to look at it. Perhaps two questions that are on the mind of most Nigerians is, will all of this rising debt get us out of recession? And the second question is, will all of the federal government's rising debt reduce the level of unemployment? So let's quickly look at unemployment and the FG's rising domestic debt. We'll clearly see that when this administration came in, as at the end of second quarter, the federal government's domestic debt was 8.4 trillion naira. The evidence today shows that that has risen by 3.6 trillion naira. So today, the FG's domestic debt is 12 trillion naira. But here's the challenge. The FG's domestic debt is rising and unemployment isn't reducing. Unemployment has risen from 26.5% in the second quarter of 2015 to what the NBS says it is today, 35.2%. So clearly, the FG's rising domestic debt doesn't reduce unemployment. The second way to even look at it is, let's look at our total external debt for both the state and the FG. Within the last 2 years, total external debt has more than doubled from 2 trillion naira in 2015, the second quarter, to 4.2 trillion naira. So the challenge is, we're seeing a lot of debt rising, But we shouldn't be bothered because, like I said earlier, the debt is sustainable, but the revenue isn't growing. So if we look at our revenue, we will then find that there are concerns. And the reason why we need to grow our revenue, pretty much two reasons. And that's because if our revenue remains stagnant, then our cost of borrowing will rise because of the notion of a higher credit risk default. The second reason why we need revenues to grow is for the government to have more money to spend on infrastructure, what we call capital projects. And in the final analysis, let's look at why capital spending is so important. Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook, for instance, last year spent over 2 trillion naira on R&D, research and development, money that may never come back, and quickly. And we would love to explore, much of, your analysis tonight, but we really have to go. Thank you. Surely, but we need to keep an eye on revenue. That is what we need to do. Yeah, so many questions indeed come to mind, as you explain all of this, but thanks a lot for sharing your time with us here on the News at 10. Where the News at 10 returns, our community report tonight dwells on a grieving family in Warri's cry for justice following alleged killing of a father of 3 by Nigerian army soldiers. To join us again.